Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in the United Kingdom. And today I'm working with the Celebration Adorable Owls. As you can see here, just a fun layered card. And I've used some DSP from the Dare to Dream DSP, that's the host set. And I've coloured these in the natural shades blends, natural blends, but I kind of went, oh, they're a little bit dark, so I thought, never mind that, we'll go a little bit lighter. So this time I'm going to use some DSP from the A Wash in Beauty suite, which is really pretty paper, lovely florals, pretty colours. And this is just one of the pieces. Here's the rest of it. It's 12 by 12 sheets, so you get 2 each of 6 designs. And you can see here, lovely florals and then fabulous bright colours on one side. And then you've got some more muted colours on the remainder. So Merry Merlot and Polished Pink, some Mossy Meadow and Granny Apple Green there. There's the one I'm using with the Polished Pink. And then these are actually cut out with the dies that go with the A Wash in Beauty stamp set. I think it's called A Wash in Beauty. Anyway, there's a Stampin' die set that go with it, but I haven't got those. So I thought I'd use this paper, nice and bright. I'm going to use a standard card base, so a tenfold 29 by 10.5, scored at 14.5 for my card base. I've got a layer of basic white 14 by 10 to go on the inside as well. And then these 2 pieces, because I'm working with Ringed with Nature, which is a hybrid embossing folder. So it's this one here, and you can see what you can do is you can put the die in, you die and cut and emboss all in one go. And I've used both the single die and then I've used the insert, so you can get this layered effect on the front. So I wanted the kind of tree trunk effect, but then I thought, let's have fancy tree trunk. So I'm going to cut one piece with that, and I'm going to cut the second piece with my dies in place. That's kind of the slightly more tricky bit, you know, if there's a tricky bit. I'm also going to cut some leaves, and you'll see there's 2 of each of the leaves in here, which means that, you know, you're getting multiples, so it makes it really quick and easy to do. So I'm just going to pop those onto a scrap of Granny Apple Green. So again, sticking with the colour palette that's in the DSP this time. And so I'm just going to pop those on there. And I think that's all I need. So first of all, I'm going to die cut myself some of those. And then don't forget, when you put your hybrid embossing folder through, you're going to want to use the different sandwich. Other things I've used, I'm going to be using my Stylish Shapes. So this is this set here that does stitching inside and out. We have squares, we have circles, and we have these lovely banner elements. And I've cut some of those out already. There's a shorter one, and there's also a longer one as well. That's one as well. There we go. There's my longer banner as well. And then obviously you can trim that down to size as well. And obviously, if you, I mean, I've used DSP behind, but what you could potentially do is actually die cut those the owls out with those and just inset them instead as well. So lots of different things that you can do. But this set of dies is Beautiful Shapes dies. I've got them in here just to keep together because they're kind of my go-to shapes. They're like a basic shape set that I like to have to hand. And then Adorable Owls, this is free. So if you buy pretty much any Stampin' die set bundle, it'll take you over £45, and you can then choose a level 1 item, and this is one of those for free during Celebration. So what I thought I'd do is, because I've got the card base there, I thought I'll probably have the pink on the inside. So that's the one I'm going to need to cut with those dies. So I'm going to use some Smoky Slate, and I've cut this at 11 by 14.5, just to give me some sort of wiggle room really. And what I'm going to do is line it up kind of in the middle as much as I can. And then close that up, and then I can pop that through my embossing folder. So when you take that out, lift it up, and you'll see in here, when you lift this up, you've got these fabulous shapes, but you've got this outline as well. And that's going to create our top layer, just to add a bit of contrast. Quite fine, so just be careful where you pop it. I'm going to take these dies out in a moment, but I'm actually going to take that big one out, like so. And then these ones sort of sit in, and you kind of move them until you feel they kind of lock, almost. And this one goes in here. And I'm going to use sort of 4 of these. This one goes up here. You can see I'm just pushing down, and then as I say, you'll kind of feel they kind of sort of sit into position, like so. There we go. And once I've done that, I'm going to pop my card over the top, and again just try and position that pretty much in the middle. Fold that down, and keeping it nice and tight, pop that through my die cutting machine as well. So there we go. So now we have our layer, which hopefully we can now pop the grey over the top, and you'll see, because I've almost got that perfect, what it means is I can stick that together, then I can trim it down to fit the front of my card base. So, you know, it may or may not be perfectly lined up, but you can at least make it square, and you can probably get one edge done. So I'm going to pop that away to one side. Obviously these you can use for another project as well. So I'm going to glue that in place. And if I can sort of line it up, so I will do. So I just want it all the way around the edges, and any spaces in between as well. Just like so. Particularly because if I'm going to trim it down, I don't want things lifting up at the edge. But what I'll probably do is just trim it down to the front of my card. So making sure I'm pretty much there. Let's try lining that up. There we go. Okay, so that can go to one side. I'm going to grab my little owl, and I'm going to get some Memento ink. So the next thing I want to do is actually obviously stamp and die cut some of my owls. So I'm going to stamp on the inside, well, the panel that's going to be inside my card. I'm just going to have a little owl just poking across the corner there. So that could go to one side. And what I'm going to grab is just some a spare piece of basic white that I've got here, and I'm going to stamp my owls. So with these, we don't get dies with these. There we go, there's my first one. Here's my flying owl. And I thought, rather than have brown owls, I'm going to have some grey owls, not even tawny owls, for those of you who have our British owls, or in the brownies maybe. We always had a brown owl in brownies. And then all I'm going to do is just cut these apart and colour them in. So I'll colour one in, and then you'll see the sort of general effect. And then I've got a couple that I've already coloured in. Ready to go. I've got to do my sentiment as well, so I'm going to use the It's Your Day, grab my polished pink, and I'm just going to come and see, line that up and just pop that on the end there, so that's ready to trim down. What I'm going to do now is actually, as having done my It's Your Day stamp, I'm going to grab just a scrap of basic white, stamp my Hoot Hoot You're So Cute onto a scrap bit of card, and then I'm going to come in and just trim that down. Like so, and we can mount that up onto a scrap of polished pink, which I'm sure I will have because I put it away. Always got scraps about. So whenever you trim bits down, you know, don't throw them away. You never know when they might come in useful. Particularly these long strips if I've been cutting card bases, or rather card mats. I'm just going to put a bit of adhesive on the back and then use my glue to pick it up and pop that into a corner there. Same again. Pop it on another little bit there. So at least one of my edges is straight to start off with, so I can pop that to one side as well. In terms of colouring then, let's grab some markers, and I'm going to use some pumpkin pie for the eyes. I'm going to use dark smoky slate, light smoky slate, my colour lifter, some daffodil delight for the beak. So not too many colours. I'm going to start off with my light smoky slate, and I'm going to come in and just go around the eyes. And then what I'm going to do now is use my colour lifter to lighten that a bit. So what I wanted to do is almost give the effect of kind of feathers. So I thought if I dotted it round instead of circles, it might just give that a little bit of an effect. Then for the tummy, I'm going to come in with the light smoky slate again. Sort of go over a little bit in the middle, but and then again sort of just lighten that in the middle. And then for the sort of feathers, rest of the body, I'm going to come down underneath here where it would sort of kind of outline. And come over the beak. And here we go, another feather. Oh, and the feet as well. Then I'm going to come in with my light smoky slate now and just blend that in. So I'm going to go over that dark colour, and particularly on the edges where it meets, I'm just going to add some sort of circular motion to hopefully blend that out, because that will then in effect saturate the card and allow the colour to move a little bit more. And you can see how that's just lifted the colour. The colour lifter has just added a little bit of it's almost texture to that there. I'm going to use my Daffodil Delight for the beak. As I said, I just come in with a little bit of pumpkin pie, because I kind of think of owls as having amber eyes. I could be totally wrong. Didn't bother to actually look it up. But I certainly didn't think it would want blue eyes, or pink, come to that. But just adding a little bit extra there. And then, the only other thing I'm going to do is come around with a bit of Pool Party, just to ground the image and sort of soften that. And so when I do my fussy cutting, it won't look quite so sort of stark. And you can see I'm just going around quite roughly on that. And that's what I would do is if I was cutting that out, or die not die cutting it, but if I was sort of actually putting it straight onto a piece of card, if I was stamping direct, that's what I mean to say. And then good old bit of fussy cutting. Now, if you don't like fussy cutting, as I said, you can always use those shaped dies that are in the shape of the sort of tree trunk. And the beauty of adding that pull part is you can cut a little border around it, like so. It's all gone quiet now. It's like when I do classes and we do fussy cutting or colouring in, all of a sudden it becomes silent. Everybody's there concentrating. I'm not quite at this sticking my tongue out bit. It's something I've never done, but I do know children who have, and they sit there and the little tongue comes out, just the tip of it. Well, they're concentrating so hard on getting it right. Perhaps I just don't care. Perhaps I'm not concentrating hard enough. There we go. So there's our owl. So now I've got a couple of owls already made. So there's my one and there's my other one. So I've got one of each. So again, you can do it all in one go. One set of stamping, and away we go. So this should be dry by now, so we can trim our Hoot. Wasn't cut as square as I might have thought, actually, that one. Never mind. There we go. There's my It's Your Day. And now let's crack on with the assembly. So let's add some adhesive to the back. And let's put that layer on the inside, and that can be drying. So next we need to decide what we're going to do with this to trim that down. So I'm going to pop that in my trimmer. Now, because it's embossed, it is slightly more tricky to trim, so you just need to make sure you're nice and firm with it. Make sure you've got one edge that is nice and straight, and then you can trim everything to true. So if we're going to go to, I'm just going to have a look through and see where that sits. Okay. Let's have a look. Yeah, okay, let's take that down to 10.5 then. And then we're going to trim this down to 14.5 if it isn't already, so it is. So just the very bottom end we want to trim. And that's the downside of it. Doing it when it's embossed, if you're doing a thin sliver. So in fact, let's actually trim it down to 14 and we'll trim the sides further. There we go. And that's given a much better cut. So I'm going to have a look at doing the same on this side down to 10. What I don't want to do is come right in here. So what I might do is just do, yeah. That's not very helpful. There we go. Pop that where it's nice and square and you can see it more easily. There we go. So I'm just pushing down a little bit more firmly than usual. There we go. And then I'm going to cut my DSP exactly the same, or if not slightly smaller. So that one is slightly smaller. I'm just going to trim that. So I can then add my, and then this is where I would use wet glue, because what I'm going to want to do, in fact, did I add it on dimensionals? I did, that's why. I'm going to grab my mini dimensionals out. So don't worry about the glue, that will dry. But what I want to do, because I need to be able to put my characters in between, and that's easier to do when they're up on dimensionals, like so. There we go. Right, so I'm using the large dimensionals where I can because I want to give it as much support as possible. Yeah. And I might just want to use my mini dimensionals in some areas where it's a little smaller. There we go. So I'm going to need something down that bottom corner. I'm going to pop another one just here as well. There we go. Right. So I'm going to shape my owls. I generally don't do flat layers. There we go. And then I can add some dimensionals when I want those to go in place. So this is going to go over the top of that. So I might want to just trim that down very slightly. Nope, I think we're okay. So let's take the backs off those. You know you're a Stampin' Up crafter when you find dimensionals all over the house. No matter how much I think I've picked them up, vacuumed them, there's always one that you suddenly find. I have even found them when I've been unpacking on holiday. And you're like, how on earth did that get in there? There we go. Okay, so decide which way up you're going to have it. And then we're just going to layer that. And if you get a little bit there that is sticking out, just come in and run your scissors up the edge like so. There we go. And that will then sit on the front of my card. So in fact I can add that there now. But by putting your DSP on like that, it just gives you that opportunity to correct anything that might not be quite how you want it. So now you can start going ahead and creating your little scene. So, alright, I think a couple of dimensionals on the back of my large owl. So I'm going to put my owls in first. As if they're popping out of the tree trunk, which was the effect I wanted to create. I just thought it was too good an opportunity to miss. The last one in the top there. And I'm rather liking this pink version. Now I'm going to put my Hoot on the top there. I'm actually just going to put that flat because I don't want any more depth on. So I'm going to have this one saying sort of Hoot. I'm going to have another one in the middle there. To trim that down. Obviously you can use those perforations to help you pop that in. I'm going to trim that down just a touch more and pop dimensional on the back there. And then I'm going to come in with my, remember we die cut, seems like ages ago, die cut some leaves. So now I'm going to use these to just add a little bit of interest. So I'm going to pop that down in the bottom there. We can have another little bit of twiggy greenery, maybe in the very top if we take that leaf off. It just breaks up the pink slightly, gives us a little bit of, again, another little bit of dimension. We might put another little bit of leaf here, and I have somewhere got a fourth. Bit of glue on the front there. Managed to lose my last little bit of greenery. Anyway, there we go. So there we have Team Pink, definitely my preference, or Team Brown. Yeah, I think a bit of fun anyway. So if you want adorable owls, spend £45, you can choose them for free. And if you want the Ringed with Nature bundle, really useful. You can see here, you can be used in either orientation, up or down. But either way, you can have some fun with it. So thanks for watching. Come back and see me soon. Bye now.